to
Ruslana, I need to record your words.
Yes, yes. So I just want to say that you are an inspiration for the rest of the world and that you are my heroes too, because you continue to bring hope and knowledge and light into very traumatized situation in the children's lives. But you continue to, you have so much strength and you have so much admiration by your colleagues around the world. So I hope you feel support and love that I'm bringing on behalf of my colleagues here in the United States. So thank you for being awesome. Yes.
Thank you.
So Marina, do you need to say a few things or should I jump in?
No. I do need to say a couple of things. As thanks to Lena Ilyenker's support and Lila Kuznetsovas and so many people around, we managed to gather a big group of participants, and now everything has changed. It's no longer just a lecture, it's a course, and this course will continue up to probably, we hope, April or May. And as now the situation is so difficult, many participants won't be able to be present, but they will be able to watch Ruslana's lectures. And we hope that by spring, the situation will be getting better. And then your feedback will be really necessary. But by now, we're just taking the opportunity to have this wonderful presenter and the ideas that are very new to the Ukrainian background, so to our Ukrainian settings. We welcome Ruslana, we're welcoming Ruslana, who is with us for the next, I hope, 6 months, and with her new ideas. And it's not like a must that you need to do something right now, but there will be a moment when the course will come to an end to do some tasks. Yeah, thank you.
Yes, yeah, let's dig in, as they say in informal English here. I'm so excited to bring you a little bit of joy into your life. So I hope you can see my screen.
Yeah, we can.
I don't know what's the setting that I can use to see the people next to me. Is there a feature like that? Hide. No, because
you
it's
have
so
to figure out. Yeah,
I can't figure it out, but I will try. Oh, I think I have it. Okay, so I have you on one monitor because seeing your faces is good feedback for me as a presenter of how this is getting across. So we will have a series of lectures and they will be interactional. Every time we meet, there will be an opportunity to interact. This series of lectures will be on the topic of systemic functional linguistics. I will briefly introduce the theory and a review for those who are new to the group. No worries if you missed the first lecture, which was not even in the course, it was just the first try. That lecture is recorded on YouTube and you should have received the link from Marina. So, however, I will still review what systemic functional linguistics is very briefly. So, today's focus is on participants and noun groups, which is in the meta-functions of systemic functional linguistics called language for expressing ideas. One second, I'm just going to go next. Okay, so this is the outline for this hour. And if we go over this hour, like by 10 minutes, I don't have a problem with that because I have lunch break at noon Central Time in Chicago Central Time. So if this outline runs over a little bit, I hope you stay. If you have to leave, it's okay too. I've already expressed my welcome and thank you and appreciation for your wonderful mission that you are carrying out in the time of war. The second part will get into introduction to systemic functional linguistics, comparing it traditional versus functional, systemic functional, and defining language as a system of choices in context and not an inventory of rules. That's a big idea from systemic functional linguistics. If you could summarize it in one sentence, it would be this, that language is a system of choices in context and not an inventory of rules. And the bullets 3, 4, and 5, or the agenda items in this outline, will be about participants as a language structure called in systemic functional linguistics participants, which is often realized as noun groups and many other ways too, but today we'll focus on noun groups. We are going to practice expanding the noun groups, and our topic today will be talking about birds. And I intentionally chose Ukrainian birds so that the learning is relevant to you and the birds in your life. And then we're going to do some group work. So let's start. This slide should look familiar if you viewed the lecture from the previous month, or if you attended the presentation or watched it online. I mean, it represents sort of, we call these in American education, we call these T-charts in ways, because they have one idea on the left and one idea on the right, and then they are unique characteristics that represent each. So in this table or this T-chart, we have traditional as contrasted with functional. In the traditional view of language, language is taught at the sentence level. In the functional view of language, language is taught at the level of the whole text. And even if we look at one sentence, we always consider the genre. Whether it is an explanation as a genre, persuasion as a genre, informational, descriptive report as a genre, procedure as a genre, etc. The sentence is always treated in what text does the sentence live, and why is it composed of those language features depending on the genre. The second bullet point is that in traditional view, and I was taught English this way, that teaching language is done to achieve grammatical accuracy. We do value grammatical accuracy in systemic functional linguistics. However, we consider context. For example, spoken text versus written text, the context of spoken versus written presents lots of options to make choices. When we speak, we don't speak in paragraphs. Sometimes we don't speak in complete sentences. When we write, then the context of writing makes that grammatical accuracy a little bit more important. However, when we write a text, grammatical accuracy punctuation is not important, depending on your audience with whom you're communicating another variable that makes impact on our choices. By the way, I appreciate if you are listening to me, and if you want to ask a question, please drop it in the chat. I will not feel interrupted. I welcome questions. That way I can see what you're thinking and how you are responding to this information. Okay, so the questions are welcome as part of this lecture. Don't wait until the end. Another big one is that in traditional, the list of structures is the curriculum or syllabus, so to say. In SFL, we look at language in learning, and the context of learning is first. So systemic functional linguistics has been applied to English as a foreign language, and Spanish as a foreign language, and Arabic as a foreign language. But it still looks at how language serves to learn or do more things in life, not just produce structures. And if you remember a quote from the last lecture, which I have here with me on a different screen, I'll read to you, is language for the living of life, not for the production of structures, is one of my favorite quotes by Ruqaiya Hasan, a systemic functional linguist, a late linguist. Late in English means she passed away. When we say that, that phrase caught me off guard when I was learning English. The last bullet is structures for structure's sake. However, in functional, we look at what does language do in text? What do nouns do in science text? What do adjectives do in arguments? I'm going to pause for a second, and I want to just wait and see if people have a question that they want to drop in the chat, and I'll take a sip of my tea. Wonderful. Yes, absolutely. SFL, thank you, Olha, for that question. The question is SFL close to discourse analysis? Man, I'm so glad you asked the question and that you feel like you can participate in this learning. SFL is a toolkit to do discourse analysis. So discourse analysis is a field of analyzing text, multimodal, all kinds of text. And SFL is a toolkit. It's basically a framework for doing discourse analysis. So that's how they're connected. That was a brilliant connection, Olha. Thank you for that question. Now, so visually, systemic functional linguistics can be represented as these two overlapping circles. This should look similar to the figure from the lecture you saw on YouTube. That basically, because language is a system of choices in context, then Halliday, Hassan, and many scholars that followed, they identified context at two levels. The context of culture is the bigger circle. The genre and the purpose and the time of and the generational influence are on language are in that genre level, the context of culture level of what makes impact on our language. And then the register is the smaller circle, and it's a field, tenor, and mode, and it's represented through this language system. So it's actually a way of mapping structures onto meaning. What that means is choices are not random. That's what that means. Choices of language that I use right now as I speak with you are not random. I respond to you as my audience, and I'm speaking. It's not written language. My cohesion is a little messy when I speak. And my genre is informational, presentational. It's not a persuasive talk. It's not a narrative talk. It's an informational lecture. So out of those variables, and the field or subject matter is education. The tenor is I am semi-formal, but I'm not super formal. It's spoken text. So, and that's kind of the choices that are literally coming out of my mouth are all informed by those variables. Today's focus is on the next these three lectures, today, next month, and the following, will focus on the field or the subject matter. how the subject matter is represented through participants, processes, and circumstances. I'll teach each one. Today's focus is on the participants. So the end, I often, by the way, as a teacher, I often represent text visually and verbally. So it can be a repetition, but it's for people who like to see diagrams or just for people who like to see words. So that I represent knowledge multimodally. Especially complex theories, they need different ways of being represented, graphically, diagrams, or just words. So the participants in the field, so the field is comprised of three things. It's topic or subject matter. It's comprised of three things. The participants, often realized as noun group, but not only, and they answer the questions who or what in the text. The processes are typically verbal group, and they are the happenings and the doings in the text. And circumstances is the adverbial group, and they are the when, how, where, and why information in the text. So today I'm going to talk about storks, and I have a sentence. And by the way, this sentence is from the genre about informational text. This is not a legend or a story. If you were to read Aesop's fable about the stork and the fox, this sentence would look very different because the genre is fictional narrative. But this sentence comes from the text on informational report, and today's genre of focus for all these sentences is an informational report. So we color code in systemic functional linguistics. We color code words or phrases in the sentence. Participants are red, processes are green, and circumstances are blue. So storks build their nests on electric poles, has two participants. They're not only in subject position, they're basically who or what. They're all the question, it's not just subject position. That was a confusing part to me when I was learning SFL by myself many years ago. Participants can be both in subject and object position, and they answer the question who or what. They are read in this text, and then the processes are green and the circumstances are blue. So this lecture today is only focusing on the red, on the noun groups and the participants. And then we're going to talk about processes, which is a fascinating way that SFL talks about verbs. And then we're going to talk about all kinds of circumstances. So that's our kind of a roadmap. Here is a connection for many of you who are structural traditional grammarians or grammar language teachers. This is a chart that shows how typically in the tradition, I'm sorry, I'm going to start from the beginning. So this text, these large migratory birds, do you see how we've expanded the noun group from just birds? It's these large migratory birds nest in green on top of electric poles. So the blue line is the SFL terminology. The yellow line is the traditional terminology. The reason but we often go between these. So when you hear me talk about participant, noun group, verb, and process is because literally the yellow line is the grammatical structures that are used to do these functions. To represent participants, who or what, is done through a noun group. To represent processes, what's happening, the happenings and the doings, is done through verb and verb groups. And then the circumstances all the other language, what, where, when, how, and why, is realized through a prepositional phrase. What's critical about this chart is that noun groups are typically used for participants, or prepositional phrase are typically used for circumstances, but there is many other ways. Participants, for example, can also be pronouns like he, she, or it. That's also a participant. And circumstances can also be realized through short sentences like it is summer, and you are giving information about the time when. So visually, participants, they are nominal parts of speech. Noun group, the participants that are realized through noun groups are nominal groups. So most of the time, there are some examples. For example, the brave fought to the end. The brave is actually a participant, even though it's realized through an adjective, but it becomes nominalized because of the article the, and it becomes, so the brave fought to the end is a kind of like, it's not quite a nominal, but it becomes nominalized.
Substantivized, yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Thank you for that question. So so the reason it's called functional is because it's about the function that the structure is carrying out. And the function is, it's a participant in this case, and it's representing who or what. Not just, is it nominal, or is it an adjective, or is it a verb? What does it do in the sentence? It represents, it expresses an idea, it represents who or what. That's the mapping of structure in the function. And it's not just thinking about nouns anymore, it's thinking about the whole group of words that represent who or what. It can represent a thing, a person, a place, name, idea, phenomenon, concept. It can be through a pronoun, one word or many words, can be human or non-human. It surprised me when I was learning at first that participants can be non-human. The weather, the climate, the global warming. So when it's representing who or what, it's a participant, can be human and non-human, and not only words in subject position, but also in object, just like I showed you earlier. Or, for example, storks build large nests. Wonderful. So why participants matter? They aid reading comprehension, because participants tell you who or what in the text. So looking for participants in the text is really important for reading. They contribute to strong writing. Noun groups carry important details. However, noun groups play different roles in different genres. In information reports to present knowledge on a topic, noun groups function, they serve a function of presenting knowledge on the topic. And in narratives, to create the setting or describe a character. So they definitely behave differently in different genres, even though grammatically they can be realized similarly. Is there any place for attributes in this framework? Shouldn't they be added? Yes, yes, thank you for these wonderful questions. Yes, attributes are important and they are part of participants. And adjectives are included in noun participants. Yes, they are, we call it a noun group, and the whole phrase becomes a participant. Thank you, Irina, for that question. Yes, and Ludmila, the attributes are, or modifiers, they're part. So you guys are ready to go to the actual work of noun groups, and you have a lot of knowledge that you're bringing to this field. If you write language goals for your students, that you are measuring their progress. This is one that I used in my teaching of teachers. So my students will understand how noun groups can be expanded in a variety of ways to provide fuller description of the idea, person, phenomenon, place, or thing, or concept. And my students will understand the ways that words are added to the noun groups is different in different genres. So that's just why do we need to teach the noun groups? What do they do for the students? So here is a very simple example of a noun group where, yes, all the red language, actually I didn't color code, okay, sorry, because the whole blue and the dark blue Seini and the light blue in the middle and the green, so that this is the grammar of a basic noun group, which shouldn't be difficult grammatically speaking to understand. You know the grammar of English really well. But in English, I remember teaching relative clauses separately, but a relative clause that attached to a noun, the main noun birds, the pre-modifier, the large migratory birds, and then the post modifier realized as a relative clause, this whole group is considered a participant in systemic functional linguistics. And identifying a participant as a whole group helps see where information about who or what ends or begins, and then the rest of the information. It has helped me in reading texts to see how noun carries a lot of information with it and where it stops, and then like the rest of the information begins. I might find a few examples. They pop up in my loft all the time. I should write them down. So very basic, the large migratory birds that nest on electric poles is one participant with the information before and after. You know, what would be really fascinating if you want to have like a project for the rest of your life to take on systemic functional linguistics and analyze Ukrainian language and the grammar of noun groups in the Ukrainian language using SFL, because it has not been done yet. SFL has been done to analyze many other languages of the world. Ukrainian has not been done yet. So any ambitious scholars out there, you have an invitation. Oh, here's one more example. The fluffy cumulus clouds that look like cotton balls. The main noun is clouds. The fluffy cumulus is a pre-modifier. And then the post-modifier is that look like cotton balls. So it's just lovely noun group that has plenty of information that describes clouds, the fluffy cumulus clouds that look like cotton balls. So another way to expand a noun group is through by asking questions. So I have these three lovely swallows that perch on the electric power lines. And to extend a noun group with your students, you can basically follow a set of questions. Who or what? So to identify a noun, you would say who or what. Yeah, center and a periphery. I love that metaphor, Daria, to compare the noun group system with an atom. Whatever metaphors work for you, there is always the head noun, and identifying the head noun is really important before to comprehend the text, and then to see which words are attached before or after. And in math, noun groups are fascinating. In science, they are super long. I have a text about oxygen that I can bring up if you're curious. So that's a great metaphor for expanded noun group. The head noun, main noun is the atom, and then the periphery. Who or what would be a question to identify the main noun. Birds, which ones? Those birds. How many? Those 3 birds. What size? Those 3 small birds. What type? The type is an important one because it lives in the science texts. Those 3 small migratory birds. And then tell me more. And what other details can we add that go after the main noun? Those 3 small migratory birds that perch on the electric power lines close to my house in Buzhanka, Ukraine. I have to talk about Buzhanka every time, so it becomes a town or a village that people recognize. I'm proud to be from Buzhanka. Okay, so this chart you may have seen before if you studied the grammar of noun groups. And this part is actually very difficult to learn for non-native English speakers because there is a particular order. Why do words go in a particular order before the main noun in English? It's very important. In the American education school system, a lot of language is sort of taught by osmosis, so to say, and not very explicitly, because language is used in math and science and social studies. So when English language learners in the US schools are not explicitly taught the grammar of noun groups, that the order falters for them. It becomes a challenge. And I'm speaking from personal experience. So usually the order is like this. The article the, or some is another article we use, is, or n, is at the very farthest, then the quantity or number, then opinion, then factual, then classifying, or the type. Remember that word migratory birds? So, and then the opinion is farther away from the noun, and the type or classifying modifier is the closest to the noun. So the 2 friendly neighbors on the front lawn, rusty iron fence around the yard, the noisy traffic along the main road, an annoying, see opinion, annoying or friendly, that's an opinion, an annoying dog behind the fence, the best takeaway food shop on the street corner. So when this is an important table I would use to teach students the order of words that go before or after. The after words are a little easier, but it's an important one. Yes, there is a connection of SFL with corpus linguistics, but I don't know what that connection is. Yeah, yes, I'm not going to pretend like I know what it is. It resembles snowball game, the idea which is to extend a phrase or a sentence. Yes, Maria, that's a wonderful idea. And I think where I'm going is going to be similar to the snowball game, if I know what you mean. It's just, again, oh, I just put in a really cool tip that I thought was useful, is that classifying adjectives can be tested like this. You can't put a very in front of it. You can't say very iron fence, very birthday cake. I mean, unless you're writing poetry. Again, context matters. Or you can say very migratory birds, right? You can say very small birds, but you can't say very migratory birds. So, so let's describe a stork. And I put in a whole bunch of questions here. What size is it? What color is it? And this is stuff you can do with your students. What type is it? What is it like? How tall? How heavy? Where does it live? What does it do? What does it symbolize? And we could do this together. Like, you can tell me words and I'll put them into these bubbles. Or we actually, I'm watching the time this time. I really want to make sure we get to that group work. So what I did is I actually provided some examples. So you could do this activity with kids if you are studying migratory birds, or if you are studying information report for writing. Then before they write that report, they can have a picture and describe the bird in through different questions that I gave to you on this slide. So it's black and white, it's migratory, it's large, it has a long neck, it has long legs, it has a long bill. It builds large nests on top of electric poles. It weighs up to 4.5 kilograms, and it's about 60 centimeters to over 150 centimeters in height. Now, for me to get this information, I used Ukrainian encyclopedia written in English, and they provide short text, because a lot of informational texts are not just language, it's also knowledge. So building knowledge is important to do the language work. That's an important part of systemic functional linguistics, how it connects content and language together. So using this kind of a semantic map of sorts, or just a descriptive map about the stork, here is different ways we can expand this noun group. Storks are birds. Storks are large birds. Storks are large, long-legged, and long-necked birds. We've added the long legs and the long necks from the previous slide. Storks are large, long-legged, long-necked, wading birds, and wading is to walk in water on long legs. And finally, storks are large, long-legged, long-necked, wading birds with long, stout bills. So there is a lot of technical language, and all of this language is important for informational genre. Narratives will have very different words to describe a stork. And then I've added this example. Yeah, so a question from Irina: students allowed to consult Google or any other sources? Yeah, of course, because in the knowledge building part of your animal or bird that you're studying, students need to develop knowledge. They need to read about the bird, they need to talk about the bird, they need to go watch a video about the bird. And in the US schools, the use of first language is allowed to build knowledge about a concept or topic, and then we're attaching language so that the concept is developed in the language that you understand the most, and then you move to the language lessons. So for knowledge building, Ukrainian encyclopedia was very helpful for me, and that's what I did personally. I didn't know about their size and their weight. It was a great question. And now, storks are large birds that range from about 60 centimeters to over 150 centimeters in height and weigh up to 4.5 kilograms. So as you can see, by the way, in informational reports, a lot of language is added after the main noun in that relative clause, and it's all connected to that head noun birds. But it's how noun groups are built with the use of relative clauses. And finally, we can talk about birds as storks as Ukraine's national bird. And if students are creating a book on Ukrainian symbols, they could have a lot of opportunity to talk about the national bird of Ukraine and the national flag of Ukraine. And there is a lot of descriptive language in the noun groups that you could build with them and create that book on Ukrainian symbols. Sounds like a fun final project. Storks are Ukraine's national bird that symbolizes spring, new life, and peace, or babies and peace. It depends. So that's kind of an idea of how that works. So now, Oh, one more. Sorry, I got really excited. Now I'm like, wait, we got to talk about them as migratory birds. And then because they're talking about migratory bird, then you need to add the information about migration. And not just storks are migratory birds that weigh 5 kilograms or whatever. No, now you are actually adding information about the migration. They breed in Europe and they winter in Southern Africa. And it's a fun use of the word winter, like we say perezimuvate in English. You don't have to say spend time in winter or live in, fly, or whatever. You just use winter as a verb in this case. However, it's all part of that noun group. So as you can see in SFL, when we talk about this nominal group or noun group, the verbs can be part of the noun group because it represents a participant, the who or what. So just a little like, is this right? Yes, it is. It's kind of fun to see. So all these ideas are ways to build student knowledge about the topics they love that are important to them. And if it matters, they can build noun groups about their favorite toys or their favorite pet before you get into the subject matter of school. But building on what they love and what they care about first, and then getting into a new subject of schooling. So we are going to, this graphic organizer comes from a colleague of mine in Australia who created a lot of useful ways of teaching about noun groups. So I'm using this table to basically show you how noun groups are built in a different way, but you can do this as a game with your students. So this is a large migratory bird that range from 60 centimeters to over 150 centimeters in height and weigh up to 4.5 kilograms. Winters in Southern Africa, breeds in Europe, and nests on top of electric poles. And the answer is, it's a stork. So it's kind of, because we just talked about this, should be easy. But this way, if you do this with students, then they are guessing what the bird is, but it has to be done in about objects that they know or about the objects that they have studied. So then here's another one. This is a small, so what type, what like or what size, what type, what, tell me more, tell me more, tell me more. So this is a small long-winged migratory bird with a forked tail that likes to rest on electric power lines and is a first sign of spring for Ukrainians. Yes, it's a swallow. So this is just a fun little activity. And there is one more. Okay, this is a graceful. So remember that opinion word, graceful. The opinion word is farther removed from the head noun. What like long-necked? What type? See how the word type is close to the noun. It's a water bird, measuring up to 180 centimeters in length and 13 kilograms in weight, that glides majestically on water and has been listed as an endangered species in Ukraine. And Natalie wins the award of swan. Yes, this is a swan. So what I would like to do now is I'm going to send you into groups with a Google Doc. And I would like for you to describe different kinds of birds that live in Ukraine. And you can use this for the game you can play with your students. And I'm going to drop the Google Doc in the chat. 1 second. Here it is. And we have, so I'm going to open it so you can see what's here. I have enough for 10 groups or however many groups we want to have. It depends if you like to work alone or if you like to work with 1 or 2 people. And I have a few reminders on the first page of this Google Doc, the noun group, the grammar of noun groups, and questions you can use to expand it. And think of this activity as something, and one example, and then your work goes in this grid. So first identify your thing or your bird. If you want to stick with birds, you can choose other things. But I think birds could be a topic we could kind of use for this lecture and then move on to something else. And so what we need to do is just to break into groups. And then you find the group number goes to the grid that's numbered for you. So we have 37 participants. We can, do you like to work in groups in pairs or groups of 3 or 4? Marina?
Groups of 3 or 4.
Group of 3 or 4. Well, then it's great because we have 10 grids right now, all the way down here. And so there is enough for everyone. So we should have 10 groups. And there will be like
3-4 participants per room, it says. Yeah.
Great.
Okay.
So let's take how much time do you need?
5 minutes.
Okay, let's take 5 minutes and do one of these. You don't need to more.
Okay, I'm opening the rooms. Please join them and choose the task according to the number of your room.
Yeah, and could you please share that document?
Yeah,
okay.
Yes, and I'm gonna drop it in the chat again. Here you go. Make sure you can access it. I see here, anyone with the link can edit, right? Let me try it again. Here, done. Can you access it now? Wait, you know what? I keep responding to an individual person because it was the yeah, I apologize. Now you should have it all. How apropos, I have a woodpecker outside my window. So there, somebody can take woodpecker and describe the noise it's making outside my window in my home office. It's funny. He knows we must be talking about him. You can pause the recording if you want, and then
I will pause it now. Just so I'm pausing the recording.
I wrote a noun group. And the noun group I wrote, I'm going to share my screen real quick. And then I also see one in the chat. It is a small gray short-legged bird that likes to eat sunflower seeds on Ukrainian fields and bother city people. I love it. So guess what it is, people? It's a small, gray, short-legged bird that likes to eat sunflower seeds on Ukrainian fields and bother city people.
A sparrow. Absolutely right.
Yes. So, sorry, I'm just gonna do something here. I'm gonna share my screen and then we can wrap up, and I'll give you just a few minutes to wrap up so we don't have to end abruptly. So as you were writing your noun groups, I wrote mine. A loud, obnoxious, small bird, I should add small, that's destroying the siding on my house by pecking nonstop and making large holes in the wood panels. And I even went outside and I took a picture, but I didn't have time to drop it in here. And the picture is there. Oh, sorry, it's that, that thing that does with the video.
Just
Shoot.
woodpecker.
Oh, it's a woodpecker. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a
But
woodpecker. And then we have
non-stop.
one that a group dropped in the chat. It's a small gray short-legged bird. Oh, we already read that one. So, and well, I just wanted to wrap up by asking you a question. So first, the noun groups in the context of text. See how when I describe the woodpecker, I use words like obnoxious and nonstop or destroying or large, it's basically, this text is more, would go into a narrative or like a
And
conversation.
who dies of brain concussion, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh,
I am not much of a biologist, but I know this very fact.
Okay. Sorry. Yeah, so did you type your group versions in the grids? Somebody's asking.
Sorry, but we didn't see grids, but we have prepared on the paper just in case to put on the grid.
Yes.
Sorry, you didn't share the
Book
doc.
3 has already written in your grid.
Okay, so yes, let's make sure here. I do want to see, so I'm going to share the chat again so that we collect our work in one place. Yes, and here is the document. And before you leave, make sure you add your noun group in here. And
Description of a bird.
yes, it's a description of a bird that doesn't name the bird. And then you can use this activity with students to teach them English and to play a game. So added to this grid on, I think I'm sharing screen now, right? Okay. So we can put it in here. Or just drop it like this. Here is one from Svetlana.
Shall we put there the number of room, Ruslana?
If you lost the number of your group, it doesn't matter.
I remember I was room 2.
I think what matters is that you put it somewhere in this document. Even if it means like this. I just copied, I just copied someone's from the chat. A mythological bird that has the ability to burn itself and then revive. Wow. That's the firebird. Yes. That's cool. So the text, just make sure your texts are in this document. For students, this table can be a helpful scaffolding, helpful support structure. But for adults, you can just write your groups like this.
Нет, Петя.
Okay, so I see one new message. Wow, easy recognized white bird that symbolizes peace. I'm gonna just copy this from Maya, from group 7. Yeah, it's fine if you drop it in the chat. Just so I have record of these because I can send these back to you if you want to use this with your students. And definitely work with students at the student level language. Depends on their levels. So, okay, I wanted to, I'll skip this just because of time, but I wanted to quickly mention that the text right here is color-coded for processes, participants, and circumstances, and that this is an informational text. And what's interesting about the complexity of informational text is that it's not grammatical complexity. It's the density of information and how it's packed in the noun groups, and also the details of circumstances. So a quick thing to say, a few activities to do with your students. Have you heard of the game called the headbands? Anyone? Yes. So it's the same thing. There is a picture on your head, and students have to practice questions and descriptive language to describe their object or animal or bird, and then it becomes a guessing game, and they get to practice language. And its noun groups can be part of that. This can be a practice for descriptive language, and then you build noun groups from this activity. Oh, here's the woodpecker is back. Also, there is a fun one. You give your students a picture, and you tell the dogs are chasing the cat, and then you together expanded that the three ferocious or the three hungry dogs are chasing the scared cat that's trying to run away, something like that. Another activity, and here's one example. And the three hungry dogs are chasing the scared cat who is leaping in the air trying to escape. So in this way, you're putting together all the grammar and the relative clauses and independent, dependent clauses, and you're turning it into a game. And this was kind of fun for people who love sports cars. This is a Ferrari that I had to research before I could do this. And look at the Ferrari noun group. Opinion is one word, and then what type, what type, what type. Ferrari, Scuderia, race car. So there can be several type words that go before the noun, and then it's all this fun stuff about sports cars. Tell me more, tell me more. Here's a blank one. And also I've added a few other animals here, actually one, but a lot of sentences about crocodiles. They have long snouts and a long body. And then fish eating crocodiles. So I'm adding the type of a crocodile, have long, thin snouts and a streamlined body. Fish eating crocodiles, like Australian freshwater crocodile, have long, thin snouts, good for catching fish, and a streamlined body. And one more. Fish eating crocodiles, like Australian freshwater crocodile, have long, thin snouts, good for catching fish, and a streamlined body, good for maneuvering in the water. So lots of really fun stuff you can do with noun groups in different genres. And next time we meet, so this concludes my presentation for today. I want to make sure I'm going to copy the noun groups you have just sent me via chat, just so we have a record of them, and then I'll clean up the document. But oh, wonderful, a big round fruit with juicy stuff inside, the weight of which ranges from 1 kilo to 10 kilos or more, cultivated mostly in southern regions of Ukraine. Yay! Watermelon. Irina guessed it. So this is fun.
Group number 5 is ready with the chat.
Yes, go ahead.
Should I read it? Yeah.
Go ahead.
Okay, let me find it. I'm sorry. We've decided to discuss, and to talk about not the birds, because we're not biologists and we don't know so much information about birds. And we know that we're teachers, so we are talking about different methods, different parts of the lessons, different gadgets, and so on. So what we're ready with short 5 minutes initial involving activity that starts any practical lesson. It is based on the previous material. And when teachers may use pictures, video, and other realia.
Warming up.
Yes. Yeah, thank you. Ruslana, we can't hear.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I just dropped in the chat 5 minutes of research that I did to describe birds, their height and their weight. To people who want to know where, I mean, encyclopediaofukraine.com is my go-to for a very brief research on any topic. So here, oh, that's a swan and swallow. And I had one more for swallow, okay, swan, and I have storks. So I'm going to drop this one just for where the information on the birds came from. So any other group wants to share at the end? Otherwise, we will meet again in November sometime, I think after American Thanksgiving. And if you want to suggest a topic, yeah, wonderful. If you want to suggest a topic, next topic will be on different kinds of processes, which are mental, behavioral, existential, sensory verbs in different genres. So that will be very exciting to expand the way we see verbs in narratives, for example, saying, doing, relating, behaving, and feeling verbs, and what sorts of activities we can do with our students. So thank you for staying.
Thank you so much.
10-12 minutes longer, and we will see you again. And I have to say Slava Ukraini at the end.
Героям слава!
Slava.
No better
Thank you. Yeah,
Ми
thank
переможемо
you.
обов'язково.
Thank you very much, Ruslana. It was very
Thank you.
interesting.
Good. I'm glad I can bring a smile on your face, to your face.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
And would it be really delightful if you shared some of your work you're doing with students with me, not for evaluation, but to bring me joy. I want to be connected to your students through the work that they write. And then I can add it to PowerPoint so that the examples are authentic and written by students in their developing language. It doesn't have to be perfect. It's where they are and how we can look at student work and give them feedback and take them to the next level. So it's a very Vygotskian pedagogy, very where they are and go to the next level. So please save student work and bring it to the next session. Okay.
Well,
Yeah.
see you.
Thank you so much, Ruslana. Really, it was like time flew away very quickly. It was like 10 or 20 minutes.
Yes.
Not an hour.
Yes.
We didn't notice this. You see?
In American English, we say time flies when you're having fun. And who knew
Yeah,
you can have so
really,
much
it
fun
flies.
with linguistics, right?
Mhm.
I have put down your idioms.
Mhm.
because we also want to get some real life language, lively language, you know, not from getting from the books. Of course, we do much
Yes.
listening and so on and so
Yes,
forth.
I know. I was taught the bookish language, the
Yeah,
bookish
you see
English
what I
language,
mean.
and I was always hungry for this authentic communication that we can have.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I just want to take a picture if you don't mind.
Please.
But thank you for sticking around. I'll stay as long as you, before you leave, I'll just stay, and seeing your smiles is wonderful.
Smile in the darkness, unfortunately.
Light in the darkness.
We're
It's
now
not the only
energy
problem.
saving and electricity saving. That is why you see I have not very bright
No.
light, but nevertheless I can see you, and was very happy because I was, after the hospital, was ill for a very long time. But I was really happy, very interesting, because I am teaching English for specific purposes. And
Oh,
what
I
we're
love it.
teaching, you see
ESP.
functional, yeah, absolutely, functional approach. And you shared with us new ideas, how to develop specific, because it is within the context, you see?
Yes.
We do not, for
Specific
example,
purpose.
we have no concepts and knowledge, but these, I mean, activities and tasks will be very helpful.
Wonderful.
To make students to read, to discuss, waiting for given arguments. I'm waiting for next lectures, you see. You're
wonderful.
That is why, thank you ever so much.
You are welcome. You're welcome. It's my pleasure.
We will see you in November, am I right?
Yes, we will see you in November. Marina will remind me of the date, or I will look it up. I think it's after American Thanksgiving. Just in case you're curious, there are many Ukrainian refugees here in Madison, Wisconsin. They are struggling in different ways. And we are organizing an American Thanksgiving for them, so they feel like they belong in a new place, in a new home.
Community, yeah.
And we are developing their community, so they feel like they have friends here and they have people to go to. So one of the traditions is to make a large turkey in the oven, to bake it, and we are gonna make a couple of turkeys to feed 100 Ukrainian refugees. And also we make pumpkin pie, which is pureed pumpkin in a dish. It's actually a very simple pie. Ukrainian pies are way out there, exquisite and fancy. American pies are very simple, but they're also enjoyable.
Sorry to intervene, but last year I was participating in Thanksgiving, and Lottie and some other Americans, they shared with us recipes. Very simple.
Very simple.
Yeah, and biscuits in this pie, I have somewhere. And they said it's very easy to cook.
Yeah, very easy. I don't have to spend 8 hours in the kitchen. I can spend 8 hours hiking instead. But I do like my kitchen. So we will have an American Thanksgiving for Ukrainian refugees. There are many children here. They're learning English in American schools, and it's not easy. They're struggling with English spelling. You know, the difficulties of English spelling and the inconsistencies. But they are bright and hardworking, and they're making progress. I visited several families and brought the joy of sourdough. It's a хліб на заквасці. And so I make sourdough bread like it's my hobby. It's one thing I love doing. So I taught a Ukrainian family how to make sourdough bread, and now they say process pishov. So they're baking it themselves.
That is why next lecture will be on process. I have guessed.
Yes, for sure.
What we'll be doing next time. Writing recipes, describing.
Oh yeah, we have to study the genre of recipes. We can come back to it.
You know, it is very difficult. I was learning how to write recipes. It was not so easy for us as Ukrainians, because we're not good in all these verbs, storing, cutting, slicing. You see,
all the verbs, you're right. Julian, yes. Порізати соломкою is
yeah, absolutely. Because in some are sliced, some cutting.
Slice, yes. That's very important. And so we can talk about the different verbs, even though they're all doing verbs.
Yeah.
Slicing. Hey, Rob,
chopping.
Can you please go do something to the woodpecker?
Chopping, cutting.
The woodpecker outside my window is distracting me. My husband Rob's gonna find a rock to throw at him.
Wow.
So Julian is to порізати соломкою, and then sliced is тоненько порізати. У нас все порізати.
А як буде тоненько?
А dice це кубиками.
Slicing cubes, or how?
Just dice.
Dice.
Julian Julienne is соломкою, окей? Так, це соломкою.
Кажу
Потім
slice.
Slice is тоненько порізати, ну, такими пластиночками. Так, okay, so that's slice. And dice is when you make vinaigrette або олів'є, you have to do a lot of dicing because it needs to be кубиками.
Я вам підказала дуже гарне, цікаве заняття.
Okay,
Для всіх жінок буде дуже цікаво.
So, oh my gosh, this is fun. Now we're having fun because we're talking about food and language at the same time.
Ingredients is easy, but instructions have to do not so easy.
And what about measurements? Different spoons?
The measurements are...
Some tablespoon.
Well, there is a problem with this system of measurement because there is a system for liquid and a system for dry. And I use the word nightmare to describe the measuring. So the measuring system. Well, friends, okay, so we learned julienne, slice and dice.
I need to say that we plan to have next meeting on the 25th of November.
Do you know if there is more verbs for slicing, dicing, and julienning in English? Is there like another one?
The whole family is involved.
Irina, what did you do to our lecture?
Shut up.
Okay.
I simply gave the idea for the process, Marina. It will be funny, you see?
Marina, what you say, November when?
I said that next lecture is on the 25th of November. Next
you know what? It's the day after Thanksgiving.
Yeah, but that's what you wrote.
Yes, and I will be there.
Okay, great.
With a pumpkin pie.
With a pumpkin pie.
And the recipe.
And Julienne food, yeah.
Yes. Julienne.
And how about turkey?
Cabbage. When you cut cabbage for borscht, I made borscht yesterday. So you julienne the cabbage. Тоненько нарізати.
Я кажу, Марина, я цікава тема.
Цікава тема, дуже
Як описати, як борщ приготувати. Де ти знайдеш нарізати капусту жульєн?
А коли будете робити вінігрет, то тільки дайс.
Ну, то Марина знає про дайс, то я
така. Я знаю, от жульєн, оце.
Жульєн, це цікаво.
Жульєном нарізати. Это я так ассоциации будую, Руслана. Кебіч, асоціаційний ряд будую. Ти ж кажеш, кебіч, жульєн. As far as I understand, жульєн, is it a verb? От як нарізати капусту на борщ? Який там буде і слова?
Жульєн is a verb. It's a
Жульєн is a verb.
Я й кажу, щоб легше запам'ятати, я жартую, кажу, капусту нарізати жульєном.
Окей. Я розумію, ви асоціації будуєте.
Так. Ну, тому що вам воно легко, ви там в Америці, а я тут в Україні. Запам'ятати треба.
Почекайте, я зараз вам знайду відео, після того відео вже будемо прощатися точно.
Це як їх заочниками. Давайте, я говорю, Катрусинки на зал. Що одне відео. Пам'ятаєте, був Катрусинки на зал.
Окей.
Я бачу, вже оживає Марина.
Знайшла я відео, де це просто реклама чудових ножів, але вона показує slicing, dicing and julienning. So this is here. And those three are basically it. Like that's it. Це все. Якщо щось забула, то принесу на наступний раз. Окей. Ну тоді вже точно
Thank you
прощаємося.
so much. It was
Дуже
very
дякуємо.
therapeutic. This was fun. Thank you.
До побачення, до зустрічі і до перемоги.
Велике
Так.
спасибі і дякую вам.
Так,
Це ви
Дякую.
підняли настрій, розсмішили, я це нарізати жульєном, прийду на кафедру, напишу. Як нарізати капусту. Це буде, хто хоче відмінно нарізати жульєном. Щиро дякую, я і вам трошки настрій підняла. Але
дуже
дійсно ви
підняли ви
настрій.
мені також. Це не тільки я вам, ви
Ми
мені
сидимо
принесли
тут
радість.
темно, на вулиці темно, в хаті темно. Бачите, он
А в душі
який
світло.
костюм.
А в душі світло, так.
Ну, я.
Руслана, дякуємо дуже.
Дуже дякую. Я
дякую.
вас покидаю.
Дякуємо
Режим
До
економії.
побачення.
Так,
Всього вам
Дякую.
найкращого. Залишайтеся в світлій душі, хоч і на дворі темно.
Все, мирного
Бачу.
вечора всім. До побачення.
Все, з Богом.
До побачення, дякую.
До зустрічі, до перемоги і до побачення.